Hey, Fidelity. How can I remember to invest every month?
With the Fidelity app, you can choose a schedule and set up recurring investments in stocks and ETFs.
Oh, that sounds easier than I thought.
You got this.
Yeah, I do. Now, where did I put my keys?
You will find them where you left them.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
Acura's all-new ADX, a compact SUV that isn't just built for one thing, it's precision crafted for everything. To escape the grind with available all-wheel drive. To go with your flow with available Google built-in.
Hey Google, turn it up.
Okay, turning up the volume. And crafted to be heard with an available Bang & Olufsen premium sound system. The all-new Acura ADX, crafted to match your energy. Acura, precision crafted performance.
Take your vibes and go, 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 go.
Google is a trademark of Google LLC.
Welcome to another Britflix.com podcast. My name's Stuart Wright, and today's guest is director of Beeston Film Festival, John Currie. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Stuart. It's a real delight to be on it.
Indeed, indeed. Now, we are going to talk about your film festival, which in 2025 is in its 11th year. And we're also going to examine 3 films that have impacted everything in your adult life. First question out the gate. If we were pitching Beeston Film Festival to someone who hadn't been before and you were trying to tempt them to the wonderful delights of NG9, how would you sell them on Beeston Festival? How would you describe your festival?
Well, the festival is an international short film festival that spans a whole plethora of genres and themes. So from drama, comedy, animation, to some thematic categories like women's voices, and we have a category for the LGBTQ plus community called Pride. And the idea is that over 4 days, you can sample a huge breadth of cinematic excellence in the short film format. And over that time, we'll typically have about 110 films from probably 20 plus different countries. And why it's so fantastic is that, we, over the 11 years we've been going now, we started off with getting about 150 submissions, and last year we had over 1,000 from 60 different countries. And so the quality of film submissions we have is amazing. It's such a difficult selection process. So I can guarantee that every one of the 109 films that we have this year is a complete banger. They're par excellence. They have so much to offer. And people, if they're a bit unfamiliar with the short film format and wonder why do we have short films, I think one has to remember that the great feature film directors and TV directors that we're accustomed to have often cut their teeth and learned their trade by making short films. And these short films, for them to get a foothold into the next steps in their career, they need to demonstrate great skill and imagination and often take some real risks in their approach. So we end up benefiting from an amazing collection of dazzling work.
Indeed, indeed. And so when does the festival take place?
It starts on Thursday, the 24th of April, with our gala opening night, where we'll have a single session of films which span a number of the genres and categories we have, as a sampler, one of our variety packs. So come on down and sample it, and because we like a bit of a party and a bit of fun at the festival as well. So we'll be starting with at 7:00 with a red carpet reception, bit of Prosecco. I dare say there might even be a bit of Diamante and a bit of dress-up going on. So, because we are here to celebrate films and filmmakers, and I think one of the ways we honour that is by having fun. So we start on the 24th with our gala opening night.
Yeah.
And then through Friday, Saturday and Sunday, we'll have 15 more sessions of films, 4 workshops, and then finish up on Sunday night with our Bosca Award ceremony, the Beeston Oscar or Bosca. Still waiting for the Academy to send me the cease and desist letter. When that arrives, I think that will be my opportunity to get on national BBC News, I think, to sort of how we're getting victimised or something like that. So it's all happening in April for 4 wonderful days.
And where will they find the festival?
Well, Beeston is a suburb not of Leeds, but of Nottingham.
Yes.
And those who are familiar with Nottingham, you can just find us right outside the tram stop. The Arc Cinema, which is our venue, is literally outside the tram stop. So just head for Beeston Central. And if you're heading up from the uncivilized areas such as London, Beeston is just a short hop along the train ride from St Pancras.
Indeed, the train stops in Beeston.
Absolutely.
Why start a film festival in Beeston?
Good question. I think I was actively pursuing a midlife crisis and exploring, after some time, a variety of various creative pieces. I have a day job and a family and stuff, but I felt the need to carve out some time to do some interesting stuff. And I'd made a short film, produced a short film called Go With God.
Okay.
And it had quite a good festival run. And the first festival run was in Dublin. And we flew over and found out that it was taking place upstairs in a pub with just an overhead projector and a drop-down screen. So we spent the weekend, me and Frank Harriman, drinking far too much Guinness and having a wonderful time watching these wonderful international short films. And I just loved the guerrilla format. And I was obviously, as a producer of Go With God, familiar with a platform called Film Freeway. And so 3 weeks later, I just said, I want one of these things in Beeston. So it took me 3 weeks to find a willing pub, the White Lion, and a wonderful landlord there called Sergio. And we set up a cinema in there, and upstairs in a function room. And 3 weeks opened up on Film Freeway, and 5 months later had our first film festival, which we made so many mistakes with, but I didn't care. It was all about wanting to try something new and exciting. And I saw it as well. Yeah, it wasn't just to indulge my midlife crisis, but I saw it as a wonderful way of paying back something to the Beeston community, which I'd raised my family in for the past 20 years, and creating this unique cultural event in the heart of the town, which I thought would be wonderful. So, so that was some of the reasons. I just, at the time, I was enjoying exploring things, and the digital age, and coming from that punk rock generation of just do it, No,
absolutely. So now you're in your 11th year. For those listening in who might be considering to follow in your path, what are some of the growing pains? Because obviously you say you start out in a pub, now you're shown in a cinema, so that's a big leap in of itself. But what were some of the growing pains you might not have anticipated that you can share with the listener who might be thinking of doing something similar themselves?
Some of the growing pains. Oh, good question. I think that one of the big lessons I learned was a couple of years in. I was working with a day job in London, And so it was a great opportunity to do some networking at these film events. And I'd turn up at there and I'd be asked questions. Submit your film to my festival. And these filmmakers would ask this really difficult question: why? And I didn't have an answer. So it was a wonderful opportunity. Why? So, you know, it forced me, if I was going to advocate for the film festival, I had to try and understand the why behind Beeston Film Festival, and the fact that I wanted to give an opportunity to the community to be involved in an industry. Okay, involved in a small way in an industry which feels very distant. You see, Hollywood, Bollywood, very out with the. Often we're consumers a long distance away from the producers, and just I wanted to create that interface with that industry. That was one element. And then I started thinking about what is it we offer to the filmmakers. And so I call it my filmmaker charter, which is, you know, why should a filmmaker submit to Beeston? So, well, we'll guarantee you three things. One, we'll review your film respectfully. Okay? One of the things as a producer of a film, I'd felt often that I'd submit to a festival, hear nothing back, feel that we were a great fit for that festival and not get selected. And felt very... the best one, you get an email saying, we've had 7,000 submissions this year and we're only picking 25. And if you get, how did you get through 7,000 properly? So I'd say to filmmakers, I guarantee you your film will be reviewed properly. And then some of the feedback, we started off guerrilla and that was great. But as I learned more, I understood the work that went in, for example, in terms of grading and post-production to try and ensure the film looked and sounded as wonderful as possible.
Right.
We, during the early years, constantly reinvested some of our income into making the kit that we had as good as possible. So the second thing in our charter was saying, we're going to project your film to the best of our capacity, okay? And now, of course, working with the Arc Cinema, we have this 4K surround sound and leather reclining seat environment. So we're definitely ticking that box off there. Very overjoyed about that one. But I think like filmmakers in their festival run, when selected, sometimes can feel a bit frustrated that, you know, the projection quality isn't great. But it was my responsibility as the director to say I would maximize that. And even while we've been in the Arc, we've moved from producing our own TCPs to inviting filmmakers to submit their own natively produced DCPs, so as we can ensure that when we project it, it is close as possible to the creative vision that they have. Okay. So that's the second bit in the charter. And the final bit in the charter is that we work really hard to get an audience. A filmmaker wants their film to have an audience, and indeed, especially if you attend the festival, when you're sat in there, and if you're in an empty room, my film's being projected and it's being selected by the festival, but there's no one here. The bit we do and work really hard at is get an audience in there, so that filmmaker can have that sense of the impact of their work is having on an audience in real time. So I think that's what I try and pitch to a filmmaker about what we offer you as a filmmaker of something which is of real value. And then the last bit, I think, broadly is about our awards process, which we hope that when filmmakers do win one of our baskets, because it's gone through like a very rigorous process locally, but then we send our nominations to our international jury. And once they've brought in their views and their judgments, if you win, winning a Bosca is a very strong reflection of what you have achieved, okay? Because as a festival and the team around it, we've invested all this time in assessing and appreciating your work. And so that's why... So that's what I think our festival does. Hopefully, for a filmmaker.
No. That's a really interesting insight into what the festival is doing and hoping to do at the same time. Also, it's probably worth adding that people that get their film into your festival, you're a BIFA qualifying film festival now as well, aren't you?
Yes. About 3 years ago, Elliot and his team were so kind as to bestow that accreditation to us, and it's had such an impact on the festival. It's significantly increased the proportion of UK films that we had submitted, and increased the quality as well. We really appreciate that.
So, looking back, then, what's a fond memory that you can remind yourself of as the director of the film festival to say, this is why I'm doing this? Because obviously you're going to have to endure a number of stresses and strains pulling together a film festival, which starts off with 1,000 submissions, and you're going to get that down into a 4-day program. So there must be fond memories or the reasons to do it that you cling to, that you go, when it might feel like it's all loose ends and never coming together. What are some of the fond memories over the 11 years that you can draw on to make you go, this will keep me, this is why I'm doing it?
I'll pick on two.
Go on.
If there are 8 million, but two which I think personify them. One, when I was working with a day job in London, we'd had the festival, we'd done our Boscas, but we had a number of Boscas which needed to go to Paris.
Okay.
So one night I snuck on the Eurostar with them, went to Paris, met up with the filmmakers in a cafe in Paris, spent the evening drinking far too much wine and saucisson, and ended up missing my journey back and crashing at some studio flat in Paris with this wonderful actor called Henri Risque. And it was just a very, very mad, special trip to have and to find myself in the heart of Paris and with these eminently cool and entertaining and charming actors and directors for the evening. That was really special. And I think back one memory to last year. Back to the Bosses, we've done our 10th, and you're absolutely right. There are lots of stresses and strains over the years, but over the years the team's got bigger and more capable. So when it came to the Boscas last year, I was lucky enough to have delegated basically running it to the various elements of the team, so I could just sit down there and enjoy. And one of the people involved there, a wonderful person called Ellie Pounder, she's been involved in supporting the festival for a number of years, and was up for doing a bit of an announcement for the nominations for a particular category and award. And she took up the opportunity to sort of say a particular thanks to me, because she said that the involvement in the film festival had inspired her to change her career.
Oh, my goodness.
She was going off and doing a master's in event management, and that's where she wanted to go. So I found that quite sort of touching, really. So just very rewarding to sort of think that people can feel that this thing that we've created can have such an impact.
Amazing.
But there are 8 million stories.
I'm sure, yeah. I mean, we can't cover them all, so we'll settle for those two. Let's remind people then, when is Beeston Film Festival?
From Thursday, the 24th of April, starting be there at 7:00, and then finishing up on Sunday, the 27th.
And where is it taking place?
at the Arc Cinema Beeston in Nottingham.
Thank you for sharing that insight into Beeston Film Festival. We are now going to move on to the second part of the podcast, which is 3 films that have impacted everything in your adult life. Right. These, for those that haven't heard this before, the rules are simple. John has given me 3 film titles, which he judges as having an impact on everything in his adult life. I should add, the guidance is not as strict and dramatic as that catchy title suggests. It is very much about the memories that we create watching film, the personal biography that's associated with watching film, as much as it is about maybe our favourite film, which is, they can all intersect, but we're not trying to get a list of favourite films. What we're trying to do, a bit like the way John described the impact of his festival. It's like we all receive art subjectively, and a film can be like a film that's meant for a mass audience can suddenly feel like it's talking directly to you, depending on where you are in your life. And that's hopefully the kind of things we're going to uncover in these discussions, which I'm about to start with John. So the interesting thing is I've added a bit of jeopardy to this conversation. So we're only going to talk about each of the 3 films for 5 minutes. And every time we hear this sound, you can hear that at your end, John?
Yes, I can.
Indeed. Well, every time we hear that sound, we stop talking about the film we're talking about and we move on to the next one. This is not a hard, fast rule. We can finish sentences and thoughts. And it's just more so we don't end up spending 15 minutes talking about one film and then going, and there are 2 others I've got fond memories for. Okay, John?
Yep, good.
Okay, right then. First out the gate, adapted from Christopher Isherwood's 1937 novella Sally Bowles. It won 8 Oscars, though not the Best Picture award, a record for winning Oscars without winning the Best Picture. It still holds to this day. When the original Broadway production opened in 1966, it ran for over 1,000 performances and won a Tony Award in 1967 for Best Featured Actor in a Musical. It's the story of a female club entertainer in the Weimar Republic era Berlin who romances 2 men while the Nazi party rises to power around them. I'm talking about 1972's Cabaret, starring Liza Minnelli and directed by Bob Fosse. Tell me, John, what is the impact this film has on you?
I think that there's a very personal aspect about Cabaret because my mother's from Berlin.
Okay.
And during the 60s and 70s, several times we had holidays in Berlin as children. And so Cabaret in one sense was tapping in to a little bit before the war. So my parents met in post-war Germany, but there was something about it being an access point into a country I was vaguely familiar with, but at a different time frame.
Yeah.
And very much one where brushing up with the 70s, there was still, believe me, there were still sensitivities around having a German mother.
Okay.
I was known at school for a time being as being the Nazi kid.
Oh, wow.
Which was not hugely welcoming, and trying to cogitate on the meaning of that through, you're talking about my mother and my grandparents, and so that comes back to Cabaret and that sort of like the rise of Nazism and then a touch point to my German side of the family and what that meant.
Right.
So I think there's a very personal connection. Obviously, it doesn't all map exactly. My mum wasn't Sally Bowles. Don't worry, I wasn't sort of implying that. But certainly, my mother, for example, didn't come over to England to marry my father with a child in tow, and Berlin post-war still had quite a decadent side, and by the 70s, the walled Western version of Berlin was described by my brother who moved over there as an adult Disney World. Enough said. So there were sort of like similarities to what, and throwbacks, and there was stuff about intolerance going on, and set in this place which was quite important to me. But I think also as well, I love the music. The songs take such interesting angles of telling the story, and I love the role of the MC played by Joel Grey, who was absolutely magnificent, and Liza Minnella's singing is just tortured, and of course, being the daughter of Judy Garland, there's a real richness to understanding or maybe appreciating her work in a deeper kind of way in relation to musicals, and of course, Cabaret was quite a different musical in the sense that because the songs were sung in the setting of the cabaret, people weren't just walking along and then sort of breaking into song, which could feel a little bit contrived. So the use of the music and the songs themselves were really potent. And another interesting aspect, one which family-wise, in about 1973-4, I think my dad bought his first cassette player and bought about 5 or 6 cassettes. New technology, and one of them was the soundtrack to Cabaret.
Oh,
so during that summer, it was populated.
There's our 5 minutes.
So a wonderful film which just touches on so many things, but in itself, I think also a really important film.
Out of interest, where did you see the film for the first time?
Telly. It must have been telly at some point.
Okay.
But I have a well-worn DVD as well of it now. So.
Right then. For your second choice, after the success of his 1977 film, United Artists executives told the director's producers to give him a message. From now on, make whatever you want. There is allegedly a clause in the studio's contract for the film that mandates that the movie must always be shown in letterbox format in any home video release and or TV cable broadcast. It is the life of a divorced television writer dating a teenage girl, and is further complicated when he falls in love with his best friend's mistress. This 1979 film is one of 8 collaborations, Woody Allen and Diane Keaton. I'm talking about Manhattan. While it's Woody Allen's least favourite of his movies that he directed, it was the most commercially successful film he made in his career. So, John, where do you see this, and why does this have such an impact on you?
Well, I think at that age, when I came across Woody Allen and some of his films, I really related to the neurotic lead in there, the self-effacing, the lack of self-esteem. It was great to have a film where front and center it wasn't an alpha male, and that because hey, most blokes aren't alpha male. We aren't. We have terrible insecurities, and
he's no Steve McQueen, is he?
Absolutely not, but he's a very funny guy and great at poking fun at himself, and that is something which I always enjoyed. But in terms of Manhattan as well, I think his wit is fundamentally structured into Manhattan in how the teenager, the Mariel Hemingway's character, is the wisest in the film. You see all the adults making complete messes of their lives, talking complete gibberish from scene to scene. And she's the only one. She's a bit like, the idiot in Dostoevsky. She's playing that kind of role, which apparently this is meant to be a bit of a simpleton, but her truth is the most consistent and accurate and wise in the whole film. And so I think that dynamic is adorable to sort of, because fundamentally it's a film poking fun at the intelligentsia of the middle classes and how they mess up their lives.
Indeed.
I love that aspect of it, that sort of dynamic. And then, of course, it comes back to music and marrying music with beautiful images. I mean, has Gershwin ever sounded and looked just, God, fabulous? And seeing it, I saw it in a big screen in sunny Southport when I was there, and I don't know how many times I've watched that film. I think for about the first 20 years, it was at least twice a year, but a little less now.
What's your cinema in Southport? What cinema would you see it in?
Well, actually, I think it may well have been at the Southport Arts Centre when they had a film club. So this is pre-VHS, pre-DVD, where art centres would have cineasts to create a monthly and spring programme for in a film club where you could get to see. I could get to see work of Truffaut, Kurosawa.
Amazing.
And, this was like, wow, so, and that was such a very important part to my upbringing, the Southport Film Society. It gave me a real look into world cinema for the first time, and that includes Manhattan. So, yeah.
I mean, if this is not too stupid a question, how did you find yourself how do you find the Southport Film Society? Is it, I mean, it's going to be quite niche, that, isn't it? How did you come across that?
Well, the family moved to Southport when I was 15. And my dad was a great film enthusiast. And so we'd gone to a number of the cinemas in Southport. And I had mates who were in the...
Finish your thought.
Yeah. I had some friends who had become who were involved in the Arts Centre in the theatrical group, so I was hanging around in the bar a lot anyway. It's also mad, and I thought, let's give that a go, because I'd give anything a go, me.
Indeed,
so, and that's not changed,
as is evident.
Yeah.
Right then, your final choice. The original name for this film was Story of Your Life, the same as the source novella. Test audiences did not like that title, so it was changed to the one we now know it as. The film's composer, Johan Johansson, stated he started recording the score before the movie had even started filming, and he and the director liked to work on the music as the director's films are being made. The siren emitted throughout the movie, signaling the scientist's preparation to approach the ship, is identical to the siren used in the Blumhouse franchise The Purge and its sequels. It is the story of a linguist who leads a team of investigators when gigantic spaceships touch down around the world. As nations teeter on the verge of global war, she must find a way to communicate with our extraterrestrial visitors. I'm talking about 2016's Arrival, starring Amy Adams and directed by Denis Villeneuve. Tell us, where did you see this film, and how did it end up having such an impact on you?
I think probably maybe not a really obvious sort of connection, but I actually have 5 kids from my first marriage, and we'll get married again next year and have 2 more.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've come across a film that sort of gets anywhere near touching the emotions involved in parenthood.
Okay.
And the story, trying not to put out small.
I think in 2025 we can perhaps spoil a 2016 movie for this conversation.
Yeah, but essentially, it's a key subplot is not, or the main plot of saving the planet, but also through the film you understand that Amy Adams has the ability to look into the future, and she sees a future where she has a child that dies and chooses to carry on because the love you have for your child is worth that pain.
Yeah.
And I get emotional now. It's really, so I think I managed to last about 5 minutes in before I'm sort of weeping. Because I watch it regularly. So there's a really profound impact, and I think really to hammer it over and over again to me is that wonderful piece that's included by Max Richter, on the nature of daylight. That theme that they use in the feature, I just think is the profoundest savage piece of music ever created. In the most elegiac, tender way. It's not maudling it, but manages to find the essence of loss and grief, and how that is actually just the flip side of love and passion.
Yeah,
it's what you lose. It's the dark of the light that you had, sort of thing. And I think Arrival is that they come and they go. And there's a reflection in the story where you think it's all, it's about the aliens coming, but it's about her child who comes and goes. And through the process of coming and going, she finds her husband. So I think that, I'm not a film critic, and I'm probably totally misinterpreting the film. But watching the film, and I think Villeneuve is an amazing director. I loved what he did with Blade Runner, which I do think also is quite a profoundly emotional film. So I'm blown out by the fact that you can have a science fiction film that is capable of conveying such deep emotional resonance as well.
Indeed. I mean, I don't think you have to worry about your interpretation. It sounds spot on to me. From my experience watching it, it was I mean, in terms of writing, the way that they juggled your expectation of a sci-fi film about alien invaders with this emotional charge, which just smacks you in the face at the end. The first time you watch it, you can't, I defy anyone to be ready for it because it's not obvious, but then when it happens, it's the most, when it's revealed, it's the most plausible thing about what's been going on, despite all the spectacle and intrigue about what are these aliens doing. Yes.
It's very much a sleight of hand. Watch the birdie.
Indeed. Well, look, that brings us to the end of your 3 films that have impacted everything in your adult life. Thank you for sharing those stories. And
thank you for inviting me. It's been lovely.
And thank you for introducing us to the Beeston Film Festival. One last time, do you want to tell people when that is?
It all starts Thursday, the 24th of April, and finishes Sunday, 27th of April.
And where can they find it?
At the Arc Beeston. Tickets available on the Arc website. If you go to our website, you can see an online guide detailing all the films, etc.
I will put a link in the show notes, and it just gives me to say thank you very much to give you the time on the Britflix podcast.
Thank you, Stuart. See you soon.
Hey there, Hugh from Podderation here. If you like today's show, then we think you will love Punch and Roll for Initiative, the other D&D show by a bunch of nerdy-ass voice actors. Join a brand new show from the ground up with a cast full of professional voice talent as they make their own adventures in a custom-made fantasy world. If you want to hear more, check out our website at podderation.com.